Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Recorded by Richter, back with a brand new music segment for you. I know I took last week off, and that's because I'm going to kind of switch, I think, to doing every other week, especially while I'm still relatively unknown, give people more time to listen and watch my stuff. And I've been thinking about things more and more lately, and we live in this world of overconsumption of stuff. We have too many things coming at us at all time, too much information, too much music, too much movies. So I want to focus on quality more than quantity and make sure that that is always the forefront, because it's easy just to burn yourself out and get to releasing stuff just out of the sake of, well, I have to release something this week. So that's kind of where my head is at. And this week I'm excited because I'm going to be talking about an artist that I am a giant fan of and I think deserves much more conversation around, and that is JMSN. Now, if you're unfamiliar with JMSN is a singer, songwriter, producer, director, multi-instrumentalist. I mean, he does it all because he's been essentially operating from an independent space for the majority of his career. Now, not the entirety of his career, but for the majority of it. And I'll get into a little bit of that, as well as review his recent stop on his tour for his brand new album, It's Only About You If You Think It Is. Before I get into talking about the tour that he is currently on, and he should be wrapping up pretty soon here, I think, I wanted to give a little bit of backstory on JMSN as an artist. And I definitely wanted to make sure that I dispel these stupid rumors of him being an industry plant going around on the internet, because that is one of the most laughable things ever. And I think it's a thing that as a culture of music lovers, we need to get away from. All it really does, and it's Twitter, granted, which is the land of the dumb, really. But we need to get away from this loud and proud display of ignorance. Just because you don't know a person's art does not mean he's brand new or she's brand new or they're brand new and have not, been around grinding at this for a long time. And JMSN has most definitely been around grinding at this for a long time. So to give you a little bit of backstory on JMSN, he actually was in a band. So in high school, he formed this band that first started going by the name Snow White. And then they transferred into being called Love Arcade. And Love Arcade was signed to a record deal in 2005, which I'm pretty sure JMSN and I are the same age and we grew up around the same area. And maybe that's why I relate to him a lot. Like when I watch him in interviews and stuff, I relate to the things he says. It kind of clicks with me because I have a similar upbringing. But Love Arcade, which was kind of like a pop punk aesthetic in the Sonics, which is where he got the record deal from. And they produced one album as a band and before disbanding, and then JMSN would go on releasing music under the name Christian TV. His real name is Christian, and so that's kind of where that moniker came from. But eventually he would drop that, start his own record label, and then he would get into this new moniker called JMSN. And the record label that he has is called White Room Records. And he's been operating from this space and releasing music independently through his own label since 2012. So JMSN is also from the Detroit area. He was born in Texas, but moved here very young and was raised in East Point, Michigan, which is right there in Detroit. And, I watched a couple interviews with him to prepare for this, and one of them was with DJ Short, and he was talking about riding around in high school with his friends and driving around smoking and listening to the Young Jeezy Thug Motivation 101 album. And that just clicked with me so much because I just remember doing that with all my friends in high school too. So yeah. So when JMSN was in Love Arcade, like I said, pop punk aesthetic, then he switches, starts dropping music under this moniker JMSN, and from there on out, you could never really box him in. He started to adopt a style much like the Princes, the David Bowies of the world, the D'Angelos of the world, where you're constantly evolving yourself as an artist and never staying stagnant and stale and stuck in one lane. You know, he kind of shifted into more of like an R&B aesthetic vocally, but you never really know what you're gonna get from JMSN when you click on a JMSN album, because he can really take it anywhere he wants, being that he's a multi-instrumentalist, a producer, does all his own mixing and mastering. So like he really has this gift in his arsenal, and I think that that's something worth noting, because I feel like more kids, instead of focusing on trying to get on and numbers and that, focus on mastering your craft. Focus on picking up the guitar. Focus on picking up a beat pad, trying to program a drum machine. You know what I mean? That kind of stuff is going to get you far in life, not chasing trends. Trends are here today, gone tomorrow, and no one will remember you if you made a song that sounds just like the other guy. So that's just a little piece of advice I have for you before I get into this. So anyhow, in 2012, JMSN moved out to California. It might have moved a little bit before that, but he started operating out of California, and he kind of got in with the TDE crew. And I've watched some interviews to hear him talk about how this happened. And, you know, he wasn't new to rap yet, because on his very first album, Priscilla, he has a song with Boldy James on there. And Boldy James is another Detroit rapper. So, you know, it wasn't like a new thing for him to explore rap. And maybe that's how Soundwave caught attention from him, was from having this song with Boldy. But Boldy James has got a record with him. So 2012, he said he was just on Instagram. He believes it was Instagram. It was like around the start of Instagram, and got a DM from Soundwave, who is the in-house producer for the TDE crew. And he said that he had listened to some of his songs and wanted him to come through to their studio and kind of chop it up. And so he did that. And through going to Carson and being at that first TDE house where Kendrick and the whole Black Hippie crew, all of those guys were around, he ended up befriending Ab Soul and made some songs with Ab Soul. They actually ended up making a full project together, which they have somewhere, and JMSN has teased it being released at some point, which would be amazing. Please, if you see this, JMSN, if you see this Ab Soul, please let that thing go. That would be amazing for the world. But anyhow, in that time period is the same time period when he's releasing Priscilla that Kendrick is releasing Good Kid, Mad City. So he was in on those sessions, ended up doing some strings on a couple songs, and also sang backup vocals on some of the songs on Good Kid, Mad City. So that's like an awesome tidbit already, aside from his own music. And, you know, he's no stranger to working with other hip-hop artists. You know, he's worked with Sada Baby, and you know, the list goes on. He's produced for quite a few other people throughout his career. Now, the first project under JMSN's name, like I said, was Priscilla. That was in 2012. He's got 9 full studio albums to date under his moniker, and he's got 2 live albums and remix and EPs. So there's tons of music for you guys to listen to. Someone calling JMSN an industry plant on Twitter just made me laugh, because he has literally been independently grinding, so much so down to even like editing his own music videos and stuff. You know, like, this is not a big machine at all. Like, so for someone to call him an industry plant would first have to be that he was on a label where someone would have planted him out to us to, you know, get attention, and that certainly didn't happen. But JMSN knows how to market himself, man. Even though he's been around forever, he's caught in some viral TikTok moments more recently, but I'll get there. So Priscilla in 2012, Pillage in 2013, a self-titled album in 2014, which he affectionately calls the Blue Album. This is when JMSN took his sound into a much different direction and kind of got more spacey and psychedelic with it. He grew out his hair long, or he might have already had long hair, but on the cover you see the big long hair. He started making these weird music videos. And then from there in 2016 you get It Is, and then a live album the same year. And then in 2016 he makes, which is one of my, it's hard for me to place exactly what the best ones are, but Whatever Makes You Happy is up there. in 2016. And then in 2018, you get Velvet. Now, I gotta be honest here. I was not hip to JMSN until in 2018. I have since gone back and done my homework, but I was not familiar with him prior to Velvet. Velvet came out, and I, at the time, was living in Detroit, but I was working out in Plymouth, which is a suburb of Detroit, just west of Detroit. And I was driving home, and I used to listen to NPR WDET a lot, which is our local NPR station from Wayne State. And they do a lot of, like, I forget what the exact title of the show was, but it was where they were playing musicians that come from Detroit. And they played a couple tracks off Velvet. I believe they played Levy, and I believe they played Talk Is Cheap, which Talk Is Cheap was the second single from it. And I was floored by how gorgeous it sounded. His vocals at the time to me sounded kind of reminiscent of Justin Timberlake a little bit, but the music was so much bigger and deeper and had more feeling to me. And that's not to take anything away from Justin Timberlake, but it had more than just your typical pop aesthetics. It had real depth to it and real instrumentation that was really beautiful to me. And so I started listening to him there. And since that, he released Heals Me in 2021, Soft Spot in 2023, and like I said, if it's only about you if you think it is, in 2025. And 2023, the Soft Spot stuff didn't really start to blow up until like a year after the album had already been out. And it was mostly because of this music video that he had where he was dancing like a psycho, smoking this cigarette in this room full of other dudes that are just dressed just like him in this wife beater. So it's kind of funny how that little clip blew up. And but I'm happy it did, because that's how artists that are in independent spaces can get some free marketing, really, when stuff like that happens. And that makes me happy for JMSN. And it's really interesting that has blown up again too, because if they go to click on his new album, they're gonna be so caught off guard, because this new project, It's Only About You If You Think It Is a straight up rock and roll album. I mean, this thing is very grunge rock heavy, very like bluesy grunge rock. And it's funny because another disparaging thing that I saw on Twitter that someone wrote about JMSN is, oh, another white guy using hip hop and R&B to get on and then making a switch to rock or country. And I'm like, no. A, JMSN started his career with rock music. B, R&B, blues, R&B, grunge, rock and roll is all under the same umbrella in the first place. It's all under the blues music. It's just different extensions out of it. I saw this interview clip with Ryan Coogler over the summer where he was talking about Sinners and was talking with one of his co-workers about what their hip hop is, what their blues music is, what is that? And he was like, well, that's our grunge, that's our Nirvanas, our Soundgardens, our Alice in Chains. Like, these guys were all talking about addiction issues and the same kind of things, only just with a different sound to the blues. And Ryan Coogler remembered being so caught off guard by that he was like, oh man, and just went down the rabbit hole and started listening to all this grunge rock music and fell in love with that sound. And so, you know what I mean? Like, it's JMSN is still under that umbrella of making blues music. It's just different sonics. And he's always incorporated different elements of rock and funk and all this other stuff into his music. So that was another one I'd like to say is an L of a take, if you will. But this new project of JMSN, I would love to, like, if JMSN, if you see this, I would love to know if you were a Silverchair fan growing up, because sometimes when JMSN does rock music, he incorporates orchestration into it. So you'll have these string arrangements, and that's something that Silverchair had always done in their career. They started doing that with their second album, and then with Diorama they leaned fully into it and had the brilliant composer Van Dyke Parks, who has worked with, the Beach Boys and stuff. He had them do like an entire composition that goes with Diorama. So sometimes when I'm listening to his rock arrangements, I'm like, oh, that kind of gives me that feeling that, so not in the way that they sing or even the way that it sounds, but just that element of incorporating string arrangements into a rock and roll stuff, I think it just always hits for me, and it sounds really great. And so with this being the new sound of his new project, I was very interested to see what the live show was going to be like, and I'd wanted to see JMSN live for a long time now. And so when I saw that he was going to be playing St. Andrews Hall in Detroit, I was so excited about that, and I wanted to make sure that I went. And so I did. Me and E, we got tickets to it. We met at the venue, went down there, and to my pleasure, JMSN was with a full band like I thought he was going to be. And it was a cool aesthetic. You know, they were all dressed in these like long underwear gear. It was like a matching white, the like long underwear gear you see people wear in the winter time. The pants and the shirt, but they were all dirty. But they were all dressed the same. They all had shaved heads like JMSN. They all kind of had like the mustache, like low beard thing going on. And man, his band was excellent. Like, it was really awesome to me to see that an independent artist like JMSN was able to afford to go on tour with a band, because I know that's a lot of the reason we lost a lot of the bands from the 2010s is because touring got ever more expensive and labels wanting pieces of your merch and all this and that. And so it was harder for bands to be able to afford to tour with each other, and then, you know, have to split the money 4, 5, 6 ways, you know. So to see JMSN able to do a nice big tour with a band as an independent artist made me realize that that is still possible. And I was unfamiliar with how talented JMSN was as an instrumentalist, aside from his singing. You know, when I was listening to Soft Spot, I had a feeling that he did most of that like digitally. And this album felt very much organic and done all live in the studio. And something that I thought was cool, a nice touch about what JMSN did with this, was he left some of like the studio sounds, like the chatter, the banter in the studio in there at the end of each track, which really is something that like D'Angelo would do a lot. That gives you that feeling where you feel like you're in the room watching this product be recorded. So I thought that was dope, and man, did they bring that so much live. JMSN's guitar playing was my biggest takeaway from that concert. Aside from the fact that he's an amazing singer, he was unbelievably good at guitar. And it felt like a statement to me that they were, it felt like this concert was them saying, we are so bored of the soulless music that is hitting every pop station now. It's just so devoid of heart. And the way JMSN was arranging and playing these songs live had so much heart and humanity in it. You know, the way they ended the concert with this big, like, they were doing this piece together where they would play this one part in unison, and then he'd slow it down like a couple steps, and then each time they repeated it, he would slow it down just a little bit until the point the crowd was like, is he gonna do this all night? But I thought that was so cool. I love when artists do stuff like that. And I thought that the opening acts were great. I forget the DJ's name that was the first opener, but he was outstanding. He was doing a lot of like techno-inspired stuff and like Miami 90s like bass music sound and stuff. And then there was this brand new young group, I think it was called Chase USA, that opened up for him. It was a drummer, a singer, and a guitar player, and they were so unpolished and by all standards not great. But they had so much heart and they were so into what they were doing that I ended up loving their set, and I thought that they have like a ton of potential if they just lock in with each other. But anyways, yeah, so JMSN, the concert was phenomenal. His guitar playing was brilliant. He had this guitar solo that, what song did it come off? It was something off Heals Me. What was it? Let me just pull this up real quick. Oh, it was off of Love to You. He did this, the guitar solo in there almost has this like David Gilmour from Pink Floyd kind of vibe to it. Like this just real clean, like shredding, awesome feeling guitar solo. Not super distorted. It was just this beautiful, like drowned out, long guitar solo. And man, he executed that well. I'll see if I can put some clips of him playing up in here. But yeah, anyways, that was the JMSN concert. If you haven't heard his new project, you should definitely go check it out. I think one of the coolest things about him is the way he reinvents himself, like I said, each project, so you never really know what you're gonna get. The other thing that I thought was a statement that was great by JMSN was his decision to not actually perform Soft Spot live in concert. So Soft Spot is the song that got trending on the internet and blew up for the video. But for this current tour, he's doing these songs that are more appropriate for a band to play, you know, longer arrangements and, you know, songs that make more sense for a band to play. And Soft Spot is not that. It's a club banger, it's a DJ song. And so the fact that he didn't play it made me laugh so hard, because I'm sure there was people that were in the crowd that probably were just there to see that. And if there's anything we've learned, it's that artists hate this shit. The shit that becomes TikTok trendy and gets only people there for that small part. Like Steve Lacy from the internet experienced this with his last project, and people, you know, one of his songs got really popular, Bad Habits, got popular on TikTok, and so people were only there to get that clip. You know, they show up to the concert to get that little thing and then dip or whatever. And so it's just so lame, and you know, these artists feel so underappreciated when it's just there for that. So JMSN did not play Soft Spot, and after his encore, once the house lights came back on, the house DJ played Soft Spot as everyone was walking out. It was so funny. I loved it. I wasn't there to see Soft Spot. You know, I think that's a great song, but it pales in comparison to the rest of his catalog, quite honestly. He has songs that are way more well thought out than Soft Spot. I think Soft Spot was him being like, I'm gonna make a callback to 90s like house music and club music that is kind of a staple of Detroit sounds too. So shout out to JMSN for that. Shout out to his band. Shout out to the openers, like I said. And yeah, that's my piece on JMSN, and I hope you guys enjoy it, and I hope you guys go check out his projects. He's an incredible artist, and I hope that Absol project comes and sees the light of day eventually. That's what I got for you, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.